नमस्कार सभी को, कैसे हैं आप सब। स्वागत है आप सभी का आपके अपने पॉडकास्ट शो साइकोरियन टॉक्स में। और आज के जो हमारे गेस्ट है ही इज़ मिस्टर राजीव देसाई। इन्होंने ही सबसे पहले इंडिया में पीआर एजेंसी स्टार्ट करी थी। ही इज़ द ओनर ऑफ आईपैन इंडिया। और हमारी कन्वर्सेशन काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग हुई है, तो लेट्स बिगिन द शो। हेलो सर, हाउ आर यू?
Good, thank you.
सर, टेल अस अबाउट योर लाइफ जर्नी। हाउ डिड यू गेट इनटू दिस?
How did I get into the public relations
Yes.
business? Well, that was when I lived in the United States. I I got my graduate degree in journalism, and got selected by Hill and Knowlton, which is one of the largest, was then the largest PR company in the world,
Okay.
to to be part of their Chicago office. So that's how. And from there, Hill and Knowlton was acquired by a company called J. Walter Thompson, which had a unit here called Hindustan Thompson.
Okay.
And there was an agreement, and I came to India to start up a PR company for J. Walter Thompson.
For J. Walter Thompson.
Hindustan Thompson, yeah.
Okay, okay. What is PR for our general audience to know?
PR is essentially, well, there are two kinds. First of all, I'm only talking now business, not talking about personal PR and all that. That's something I'm not interested in. Businesses do a lot of things that need to be explained, and they need to be explained to employees, to shareholders, to the general public, and so forth. So one of the things they do is they can use the media quite effective. If they can learn to use the media effectively, they can communicate these messages quick and fast and with more credibility. So my talking to an audience is one thing, but a television channel or a newspaper reporting what I said gives it a little bit more authority, the authority of the news broadcaster.
Okay, okay. So you were the first person who started the
Yeah.
PR agency in India. So
Yes.
what challenges did you face?
We didn't have any trained people.
Okay.
Nobody. Nobody. Zero.
And sir, anything else?
No, we just trained them on the job. That was my job. That's what I did. I built an agency and a profession in the process.
So sir, for those who don't know about IPAN, what would you like to tell them about that?
Well, IPAN was the first PR company to, though that's some people have disputed that, but that's a joke. IPAN was the first professional PR firm, consulting firm to set up in India. First ever.
Anything else about that?
No, I mean, it wasn't that there was no PR in India, public relations. It was done through corporate PR department. It was never done through an agency. Agencies, people had heard of agencies, but it's in advertising, market research, and so forth, but never in this.
Okay. So sir, you started that in 1987, I guess.
Correct.
And today is 2025.
Yes.
So sir, what are the big changes you have seen in this market?
I think first of all, it's become it started out as a limited market. Then because of especially in 1991, when the government actually freed the economy of the license permit Raj,
Okay.
that things began to boom. Media began to boom, markets began to boom, and there came the need to manage both media, the interaction between media and the markets, and that's where the PR company comes in.
Okay. So sir, do you think the artificial intelligence will affect this industry?
I don't know. I first wrote. I was, I used to work in the trade and the technology segment of Hill and Knowlton. That means they only did work with technology companies. So I dealt with a lot of these long before it became tech. I dealt with a lot of them. So yes, we had the first experience I had of artificial intelligence. It starts out actually as an expert system, not as artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So an expert system is one where you have a database and based on keywords and key clues, you can select. So we had a client who had this was also the time of the boom of computers, and we had a client who had developed a program that would help companies choose the various computer systems. So whether monitors, keyboards, hardware, all of that sort of stuff. And so they had a program that you could choose from that, and that's how I got into it.
Okay, okay, okay. So, but in today's life, people usually use artificial intelligence for like preparing a message also.
You need intelligence for preparing a message, not artificial intelligence.
Like you have heard of Chat GPT?
Yeah.
People are using it for.
No, that's not my side. You have to, this has to be human and it has to be intelligent. Otherwise, you may as well be a computer spitting out messages. Don't get into this AI business and all, I mean, I know in India they grab a hold of any sort of wave that comes from abroad and say, oh, AI, that's rubbish. First you need
Intelligence.
yeah. And it comes from humans.
Definitely.
The artificial intelligence system is simply helps you negotiate and select from between a vast variety of choices.
Okay.
That's how it works. It's not like there's a big computer that is doing your thinking for you. That's really not the case. The case is that when there are, so as I was telling you, my first client developed this so-called expert system to help companies select from the various, in the newly developing or booming area of computers, select from between monitors and keyboards and peripherals and printers and all kinds of things. So based on, you had to answer a few questions about what you were going to use this computer for, and they would come out and say, this is the kind of configuration. You need this printer, that monitor, that keyboard, that sort of thing.
Okay. So as we know, networking holds a lot of value in PR. So what are kind of advices you want to give to the people?
Networking.
Networking, communication networking.
What does that mean?
Like links to people.
No, so when I started this company and IPAN years ago, and people came for an interview because they'd never heard of PR, so they wanted a new thing and wanted a job. So I said, so what? I want to be in PR because I like to interact with people. I like to do. That's not what it's about at all.
Okay.
It's about understanding business, it's about understanding media, it's about understanding audiences. So it takes a little while, but finally we got them trained, as she will tell you. We had a lot of very smart people who have now gone on to head companies, PR, communications functions like Microsoft and Boeing and Intel and all of that, yeah.
So there might be a difference in like dealing with big companies like Pepsi, Microsoft, and some Indian companies. Is there any difference in dealing them?
When you say big companies, remember that you always end up dealing with an individual or a group. Okay. You're not dealing with this giant. So it's human interaction. Number one. Okay. Number two, in the West, I mean in the multinational arena, the reputation of a company determines many things, not just the sale of its products, but it also recruitment, hiring people, locations, where do you locate, which country, government, how do you deal with governments, all those kinds of things.
So one piece of advice you would like to give for someone who's just new to this business or want to start the PR agency?
The first thing about being in PR is knowledge. You have to be knowledgeable about not just one thing. In India, that's the other thing. There's a STEM kind of attitude.
Like a STEM kind of
Technology, engineering, management, STEM. So Indians think that, oh, that's the great. No, that's not really what we're talking about. It's not that. You need to have a broad understanding of how social systems work, political systems work, and within that the various things like media and all of that sort of thing. So it requires a very broad-based understanding and knowledge of the world.
So is there any political interference in PR?
The whole PR business actually got started out by my company, Hill and Knowlton, years ago in the United States.
Okay.
And that was where, amazingly enough, it was a tobacco company that hired John Hill, who was one of the companies, because they felt that they were making a product and that people were not forced to use it, but they had a choice and they could use it, and you shouldn't do that. At that time, of course, there was no enough evidence about the health consequences of it and so forth. But so that's how it got started, actually. And from there it expanded, and also the biggest boost came to the PR business after the Second World War.
Okay.
When various, I forget the names now, American professionals, went to Europe because Europe was devastated by the Second World War.
Okay.
And to try and convince them, they couldn't tell the difference. An average guy couldn't tell the difference whether it was the Germans who did it or the Americans or the Brits or whoever it is. And the Americans were conscious enough that they formed a group and sent them to the United States, to Europe, to tell them that this was a fight against fascism and so forth and so on, and so that it helps smooth things over. And that is really the job of PR, to explain things, to explain things that are complex, to explain things that are inevitable, like war, to explain things about personalities, to explain things about nations, conflict, all of that.
So I personally feel like, as you said, what you have said till now, I feel like the narrative of PR has changed nowadays. It is for the protection of like the image of any person. People use PR to protect them.
That's not a very effective use of PR.
It is now.
That's a very, then it's wrong.
Okay.
Believe me. If PR companies are selling you this, that I will, that's not the way to do it. What you have to tell, like when I came to India, India was a closed market, until 1991, when the government removed the license permit Raj, and suddenly choices became available.
Okay.
And so people needed information to make those choices. And that's where PR fits in.
Okay.
Not to get a policy or a decision to your liking, but to explain things that happen.
Okay.
And that's why I think IPAN was successful. Because when we came, when we started IPAN, we first got in the thick of it because there was a big controversy about Pepsi Cola entering India. And I met the Pepsi guy in some situation, and he was a young guy, Indian guy, who was heading the Indian organization. And I told him, obviously, if you're getting all this, and that was very clever, because Pepsi needed approval from the government. And every time they had a date where the committee was going to meet to whether to approve the project or not, there would be a controversy in the press, in the media. And then the government would back off and say, we'll do something later. I told the head of Pepsi, the India head of Pepsi, I said, this is not happening by accident. It's happening because somebody is inspiring it. And sure enough, I said, who's the biggest, who do you pose the biggest threat to? And it was the guy who manufactured soft drinks in India. His name was Chauhan, and he did, I forget the name of his drink. Do you remember Rashmi? Ramesh Chauhan, what? Campa Cola? Not Campa Cola. Some.
Coca-Cola, thumbs up.
Thumbs Up, yeah.
Okay.
That was threatened by them because Thumbs Up controlled all the distribution, controlled everything, all the channels and everything. And the company just Parle just were very happy. There was no innovation either in product or in marketing or in advertising or in promotion or in anything. They were happy. They had 90% of the market, so why do we care? Yeah. So they were threatened when Pepsi came because they felt that their market share would decline, and it did drastically. And so they used the negative kinds of aspects of PR, so that every time the project came up for approval before the cabinet committee, they would orchestrate through their contacts in the press a huge negative reaction, which would make the government say, "Nee, let's not do it now." So until we came on board and we said, "Okay, not to worry, we'll fight back." And we fought back by explaining, well, first of all, we said that we should, they should have a larger ambit, not just to sell Pepsi and soft drinks, but how you affect the larger thing. So then they said, yes, we've got Frito-Lay, which manufactures potato chips and snacks and stuff like that. So we will encourage potato farming. We will encourage, and in soft drinks, we'll encourage bottling and all those kinds of technical, business aspects. So that started to appear in the press. And then people realized that, this is all this being orchestrated by one player with contacts in the government. And he would call the joint secretary and say, "Bhi aa raha, please kuch kar dena." And so they would call the press and say, "This is..." So we got caught onto it very, very fast. And I came to India in, roughly January 1988. And in September 1988, the project was approved after 3 years.
Took a lot of time.
Well, because we fought and we understood what was going on. So it worked out quite well. And then from there, it started,
Same kind of things.
similar kinds of things. Not everything is not like that. Though a lot of it was always a fight against the vested interest.
Okay.
It's always a fight against the vested interest. And I explained to my clients, I used to explain, that the government uses the media to fight against the vested interest, which they think is business.
Okay.
You use the media to fight against the vested interest, which you think is government. And we did it, and it succeeded.
So basically what is now happening, like many Bollywood actors, cricketers are using PR agency to glorify them.
Yeah, we don't do that. We never did
This is
that.
happening.
And we were not involved in personality promotions at all. That's not for us. That was never for us. We were an organizational corporate entity with an international reputation. We were not involved in promoting a film star or a businessman or anything of that sort.
So as we all know, India is reaching heights globally. So is this because of PR or narratives, or it's something else?
First of all, when I came to India after spending 2 decades in the US, I was like taken aback that there was no mention of India in the international media, ever, hardly ever. And when I came here, I thought that the way it was conveyed was that India is in the Western media, on international media every day, which is not true. And the same thing now. It's the same thing. India is still not a player. It's not a player. You cannot be a player, no matter what you say, no matter anything, you cannot be a player with 80 million people being provided food rations from the government because they can't afford to eat. 80 million people. You cannot be global player when your transportation systems are not adequate, road networks are not adequate, water supply is not adequate. Do you get water in Delhi, the capital city?
In my area, yes, I get.
Well, we are on the outskirts of Delhi. We have a well, a bore well.
Okay.
There's no municipal supplied water here.
Okay.
And it's not just about this. I mean, in general, it was. It's only now that the power situation is stabilized. But airports are still chaotic. Transportation is still chaotic. The traffic is crazy. Even though there's a metro, so you made a metro thinking that you'll get people off the road, but you haven't done that. Metro's used, but not to the extent that it was intended to when the roads are still clogged with traffic.
Yes,
so all your priorities are all mangled, and the priorities are mangled because you make priorities based on what you think will help the nation go ahead, not help a person or a political party or a government go ahead.
Okay.
That's the big difference. And the last time that happened was, I used to work very closely with the government, but that's no longer there. And it's not this political party or that political party. It's just a system. Even in the U.S. Look at what now. One of the most admired things in the United States was this higher education system. People would die to get into universities like Harvard and Yale and Chicago and all these. And the current administration is going after these universities, saying that they are. This is where they learn to oppose the Trump administration or the U.S. administration or whatever. It's the same thing. It's a mindset of a wannabe dictator, Mr. Trump, Mr. Modi. I mean, it happened before in Sri Lanka. It's happened all the time in Pakistan, Bangladesh, everywhere, Burma. So.
So like the relations of India with other countries has improved, or it's just the narrative set by
It's
the
the
media?
same. Yeah, it's a narrative by the media because it historically all foreign policy issues
Okay.
were dictated by the External Affairs Ministry. I know that very well. We did a lot of work for them at IPAN. And the media have what way do they have of independently knowing what's going on in the world? Do they get to travel? No. Yeah. So this one guy went somewhere in I don't know where it was, where there was Ukraine.
Okay.
And he stood on the road of Kyiv and said, "I'm standing on the road in Kyiv and there's nobody here, but I can hear gunfire." This is called reporting. So, you have to be serious about these things. I don't think anybody was serious because, the media did not have the resources to do that.
But nowadays many journalists are going outside the country.
तो घूमने जाते हैं
different. No, they are doing journalism. They are reporting to the media.
What?
Like what is happening in the situation right now. If there is a war, like Syria is fighting.
If you're a media
Ukraine.
person, it's not that you've traveled to Ukraine or to Russia or to Poland or wherever, or Italy or wherever. And no, it's who are your sources? Who have you talked to in Ukraine? Who have you talked to in the US? You can't just go to the US and read the newspaper and write about it. That's not it. So you must have sources. And Indian journalists that I've known them from when I lived there. They had no sources. Nobody would talk to them. Why would anybody talk to them? So for example, in the US, I know this. A friend of mine used to be the spokesman for the Indian government in Washington, and he lives here now. He told we knew each other, and he says nobody is going to send journalists to report anything in India or anything. It is not important in the world scheme of things. So we just rely on the embassy. And as they rely on the embassy, then they get the government view. They don't get any independent view. And that remains by and large because they don't send people to do any proper research and interviews and all of that. International media.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So they'll sit in Delhi and make a few phone calls, read the local newspapers, let's watch TV and report. Because we don't have the systems. You know, in America, all major government departments, major corporations have a channel through which they communicate. And you can tap into that and understand what they're saying. They don't have that here. Try and get a story from the External Affairs Ministry today. Try and get a story from Reliance. Try and get a story from whoever. It's difficult because they have no systems. Communication systems. They only communicate when it's to their advantage, which is okay.
Definitely.
But it's never really to inform, you know, which is the whole point of communication. Not to influence, but to inform.
So we have a section called Knowing the Guest, in which we ask you some personal questions, not that too much personal. Just
Okay.
basic questions for the audience to know about you. So do you watch movies?
Yes, absolutely.
Who is your favorite actor?
Indian or Western?
Indian, Western, both?
Well,
Name.
there's my favorite Indian actor right there.
Yes.
He was
Yeah.
my neighbor in Bombay, yes.
Okay.
So there's a Bollywood channel that I watch that shows all these Indian Devanand films. I watch them.
Okay. So
And
you was a
then-
neighbor? That time?
In Bombay, yes.
In Bombay. Okay. And your Western favorite actor?
Favorite actor?
Western.
There are too many of them. Too many of them.
Okay.
Too many of them. But yeah, but I generally like to watch movies by Scorsese. These are directors.
Directors, yes, definitely.
And stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. And actress?
You got about 3-4 hours.
So okay. So definitely, if you watch movies, you would love the songs also.
Yes.
Any song, singer?
Where in India?
Yes, definitely.
Singer, I don't know, but songs, yes, all of
All of the Devan songs.
Sachin Dev Burman, yeah, that music.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
S.D. Burman song.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, okay. And so any sport? you watch?
Sports.
Yes.
My classmate was Sunil Gavaskar
Okay.
in Bombay. So
Okay.
cricket.
Cricket. Okay. He will be your favorite cricketer then?
He's a friend more than anything else. But yes, I'd like to see him do well.
Who
But
is
he's too old to play now.
Who is your favorite cricketer right now? Do you watch sports right
Yes, I do, but let me see who. I think there's a
now? Virat. Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma.
yeah, that guy is good.
Virat
Kohli is good and Rohit Sharma is really good too. Yeah.
Lovely
Great.
talking to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me your time.
Anytime. Anytime.
Thanks.
Good luck.